I've played CK3 for at least a couple thousand hours, and before that I played CK2 for thousands of hours more. In all that time, never once did I reach the end of the game in 1453. That's where this playthrough comes in. I'm gonna play a small kingdom, and I'm gonna stay a small kingdom for the entire game. The kingdom I chose is Denmark. They have their little peninsula with an archipelago. They strike me as a fitting place to build a tall, rich, and in my headcanon, trading kingdom. And trust me, after 600 years we're going to get very tall. Now, as we have all the time in the world, instead of starting as a ruler in Denmark, I created my own adventurer. We'll start at the very north of Scandinavia and move south, building up an army to take over land for ourselves. Since this is a Tal playthrough, I named my custom dynasty Tal. My in-world explanation for that name is that that's what my first character chose because he's a giant. And as I'm writing this, I realize that that's the exact same way Sir Duncan the Tall got his name. Anyone else excited for the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms? Striker Tall, besides being a giant, is brave. It's a virtue in our faith and it grants us some useful martial and prowess stats. I didn't want to make him OP, so I just gave him a level 2 martial education, and his other two personality traits are arrogant and eccentric. Not particularly useful, but also not a detriment. In the end, I created a character that's pretty good at martial and prowess, with decent intrigue. And he's kinda bad at diplomacy, stewardship and learning. But hey, we're a Norse bandit looking to conquer land. Subtlety isn't going to be useful. When the game gave me the option to choose what kind of characters I wanted to be the first to join the band, I went for martial focused ones. Intrigue ones would have been useful, cause criminal contracts get you the most money. But we'll be able to do those anyway, and I want good champions to help me win my future wars. But we also need an army, and for that we need gold. So we do a quick assassination contract. We need supplies also. I could have bought hunting rights in the tribe we were in, but I don't have the money to spare, so we sneakily pooched under the chieftain's nose. While visiting a tavern, I had the opportunity to hire a high intrigue woman. She would be useful for future crime contracts, and we need a wife to make heirs, so I went into debt to hire her. A random holy man also showed up and joined our camp. He turned out to be a better assassin than a holy man. He helped us complete more assassination contracts. Now I have enough money to hire some troops. I chose a regiment of Bondi. They're cheap spearmen that have combat bonuses against archers as well as light cavalry. And they are better at fighting in winter. I had run out of criminal contracts, but I had 3 contracts to train the champions of the local chief, and all 3 contracts were exactly the same, training up the same 3 guys. In the end, we single-handedly increased their prowess by 12 points each, and we earned ourselves some more money in the process. I used it to upgrade my Bondi regiments to maximum size, and I also upgraded my pavilion. The pickings were getting slim up here in northern Norway as far as contracts are concerned. So I took a treasure hunt contract that required me to travel to Denmark. We sailed along the coast, and the voyage was surprisingly easy. We finished our contract and we're now in the lands we eventually want to conquer. But we are still way too weak to actually attack someone. So for now, I continue to build up my force. I moved my camp to the capital, Sjælland, so I'd have the option to go to the tribe. This left me in debt. But moving to Denmark did open a bunch more contracts of the criminal variety. Mugging people left me wealthy enough to hire wigmen, more powerful archers unique to the Norse. After pilfering a tomb, winning an arm wrestling contest, and a few more mugging contracts, I was able to upgrade my pavilion further and hire Varangian veterans. With an army of almost 1,000 troops, composed of spearmen, archers and now heavy infantry, I was becoming a potent force. But Sjælland was ruled by Sigurdr Snake in the Eye, a powerful historical character. And Jylland controlled the entire Danish peninsula. Both realms had more troops than me, and I wasn't sure I could take them on. I also had a string of bad luck. While traveling, I got in a duel against a random guy who defeated me, despite there only being 1% chance that would happen, earning me a wound. I had also failed to romance my intrigue wife, and when she finally had my first son, he was sterile. A character named Dala joined my camp as a stooge. She was my only other woman follower, so I made her a concubine, so she would hopefully give me heirs that can actually continue my dynasty. She was quickly promoted to wife, when the old one dueled one of my other followers to the death and lost. I raised more money by doing train commander contracts. My character was randomly assigned the flat terrain expert commander trait, which I was able to teach to others. That trait will be much more useful in Denmark than it would be in mountainous Norway. I hired some light footmen, a cheap way to beef up my army, and I judged I would now be able to take on Sigurdur of Sieland, but I didn't have enough fame to use a duchy level CB. War is probably the best way to get fame, and I'm now powerful enough to take some stand with us contracts. I also held camp revelries and hunted with a slay beast intention. This time I was wealthy enough to purchase hunting rights. My second wife had a baby boy, who was stillborn. Man, I'm really not having luck when it comes to heirs. Over the next few months I took a couple more stand with us contracts. Both against the same guy I fought in the first one. By the end of the third war, they were thoroughly wrecked. I'm close to the level of fame I'd need to take a duchy, and I moved to Sweden, both for more contracts and because you can't attack the realm you're currently camping in. In Sweden I took some hunt criminal and fight corruption contracts. I still hunted for provisions. When I started in Norway, I had to quietly poach for supplies. In Denmark I could buy the rights to hunt. Now I'm powerful enough to openly poach, and the local chief can't do anything about it. I realize that Yeland is trying to subjugate Sealand. If they succeed, they will be too powerful for me to attack, so I joined Sealand to try and keep that from happening. A couple of times I ran into a battle hoping the AI would join me, so that we could win together. But I guess Sigurdur would rather siege random castles, and I couldn't break the Yeland army, resulting in their eventual victory. But at least I still got paid. I'm now famous enough to take a duchy, but Yeland is way too big and powerful, so I'm gonna wait for their Jarl to die and his realm to be split between his sons. But they attacked Sweden to try and take a county of them. Seeing an opportunity to weaken them and hopefully kill their Jarl in battle, I joined the Queen of Sweden. I was able to catch the Yeland army where I was defending in the hills, and the Swedish army eventually joined the fight. This weakened them enough that I was later able to finish them off, winning the war for Sweden. Unfortunately, the Jarl of Yeland survived. Remember how I had terrible luck with my sons? Well, here's an opportunity to fix the heir issue. I got the event to adopt a wild child into my dynasty. His name is Stain, son of wolves. He's alive and not sterile, so I was happy to take him in and raise him to be my heir. Over the next few years I fought as a mercenary. I upgraded my army even more, and I opposed Yeland in all their wars. During one of these wars, their Jarl finally died. Not in a battle, but of old age. This caused Sealand to break away under the younger son of the previous Jarl. The older one got Yeland, and he is allied to a count that has 8,000 special troops. He is probably a former northern adventurer. So attack Sealand while they're still vulnerable. I had to fight off the older brother as well when he tried to take some land for himself, but it was still the easiest war I've fought so far. I finally became landed. This got me the adventurer trait, and despite controlling just one county, I had a lot of men-at-arms regiments for my adventurer days. And yes, you heard it right, just one county. Despite delaying so that I can be famous enough to take a whole duchy, I only got one county at the end of it. The other two counties in Sealand became independent under a chieftain for some reason. Well, I immediately declared war to fix that. Then I had a stroke of fortune. The chieftain allied the new Jarl of Yeland. I couldn't attack Yeland directly, cause they are allied to the guy with 8,000 troops. But since they are not the war leader here, they can't call in their allies. So when we met in battle, my powerful men-at-arms won. And even more lucky still, we captured the Jarl of Yeland. At some point he had killed one of my less useful kids, and I swore vengeance. This allowed me to give him blood wings, ending his life, and ending the Yeland alliance to the 8,000 troops guy. As a nice bonus, Yeland split into two duchies. As soon as I captured all of Sealand, I attacked the two independent duchies at once, capturing the Danish peninsula. And it was time. I didn't capture all of Denmark yet, but I had enough to create the title that will be my primary till the end of the game. I created the Kingdom of Denmark. My realm was stable, so I took some time to order my new kingdom. I made Sealand my capital duchy, while giving Yeland and Schleswig to a couple of friends from my old bandit days. I made all my daughters shield maidens and married them off. I also elevated Stein, son of Wolves, to be my heir and co-monarch. He may not be my blood, but he is as competent as any of my other children. The Duchy of Skane was weak. After capturing it, I controlled all of Denmark, but there is one more piece of land I wanted to capture and make the core of my kingdom. Gotland, a one-county island duchy. After capturing it, it will become a part of Denmark thanks to the Eurodrift. I plan on making it the second duchy I hold personally next to Sealand, but that's for later. Taking a look at Denmark, it's really not the ideal place to play tall. We are tribal and our development is basically non-existent. I did invest some money and prestige into upgrading the port there, but it's not going to make much of a difference to our economy. If we want to make money, our only option is to raid, so I went for England. The English raised an army as large as my own, but they attacked me across a river and were wiped out. This allowed me to continue pillaging them without challenge. While I was raiding them, England had a succession, leaving them vulnerable to attack. Now, Strykar was getting old, and with Confederate partition each of my sons would get a piece. I wanted Stein to get all of Denmark, and to achieve that I would take England, so that my other sons can take what they want from there. I disembarked my army on England again, this time as conquerors, not raiders. But they had hired their holy order, meaning they outnumbered me 2 to 1. And they were ready for my attack. As soon as I disembarked, they engaged me. I won anyway. Strykar was a very good commander by this point, and we had more men-at-arms regiments than we should have had access to, thanks to our time as an adventurer. England was mine. Now, I don't really intend to expand past the de jure borders of Denmark, but every once in a while I will temporarily take some land here and there to deal with succession or to preemptively destroy a threat. Me taking England, though, did cause the Catholic Crusades to begin early, and I was confident I knew what their first target would be. These were the last years of Strykar's life. We raided some more, this time in France. We took Gotland. Jomsvikings formed, and then just a couple of years later they were destroyed. And surprisingly, literally all of my sons died. Dead End died from cancer, some died in battle, and Stein, my preferred heir, died of stress. In the end, Stein's son inherited all my land, meaning that taking England and unlocking the Crusades was pointless. To add insult to injury, that's when the Crusade for England fired. With all Asatru on our side, I hoped we could fend off the Catholics as they disembarked. But it was no use, there was just too many of them, and we lost England. I wasn't too upset, I had never intended to hold England for long. But then I was attacked by the King of Sweden, who had a claim on Denmark because his mother was one of our aunts. We were able to fight him off, but in the process he became our rival. Later, as I was raiding Sweden in revenge, he assassinated me. This was unexpected, and it caused me to have a slightly messy succession. My third character was Rolf. I spent the first part of his rule taking the counties I lost from my brothers. And that's when the Norse split happened. We are now Danish culture, and Rolf is the culture head. This is what I was waiting for. We are low-tech, and as long as we were Norse, we would remain low-tech because that culture is spread all over so much low-development land. But now that our culture is contained in our little kingdom, we can focus on raising our development and truly starting to play tall. But first we need to stop being tribal, and to do that, we can't be an unreformed pagan. I have no intention of reforming Asatru, so I convert to Catholicism. This will have the added bonus of protecting us from future crusades. Then, after making sure that all my vassals are also Catholics, I invade Sweden. They now control all of Norway as well. Because we are still tribal, we have access to the subjugation CB once per life. Sweden was able to put up quite the fight thanks to the supply penalty organized faiths get in unreformed pagan lands. But I was able to hire a very powerful holy order to make up for it. So in the end I controlled Scandinavia all the way up to Uppland. I did this for two reasons. To get revenge on the guy that assassinated my last character, and to make sure a giant pagan Sweden isn't a threat to me when I become feudal. So I told all my new vassals to convert to Catholicism. Most did, in exchange for a favor. Having so many vassals with hooks on me would be a problem, but I'm playing tall. After destroying the Sweden and Norway titles, I released them as independent Catholic Duke-level rulers. They will not be a threat to me. During the rest of Rolf's reign, I went on a crusade in Italy. It was taken over by some heretics. And there I got the Crusader trait. Shortly after, I raised tribal authority to maximum and adopted feudalism. Now we are no longer stuck in the tribal tech era. We have a higher income, and we can actually start building up our domain. My next succession wasn't a problem. Thanks to the Catholic monasticism tenant, I was able to get one son to take the vows and get out of the line of succession, and another I disinherited. We're now entering the part of the playthrough where I mostly just build up Denmark with occasional distractions, so I'll skip over the smaller events. My fourth character went on a crusade against Byzantium, which led to one of our kin becoming Emperor of the Latin Empire. In the meantime, an Asatru conqueror defeated all the Catholics in Norway and became king, while the Kingdom of Lithuania reformed the feudalist faith. I'm now basically squeezed between two kingdoms hostile to Catholics. So I put down the Norwegian pagans with a kingdom-level holy war and the help of a holy order. Fifth character did literally nothing except die in a plague, leaving Denmark to a 2-year-old. 2-year-old grows up, gets rid of entrenched regency, declares holy war on Lithuania. The war goes back and forth as we sail through a river to besiege their capital, but we get kicked out. We regroup, come back and destroy pagan Lithuania. Estonia eventually takes over the former Lithuanian lands, but they are Catholic, so it's fine. We build the special building in Gotland, the Visby city walls, giving us extra development and taxes in that county. I reformed Danish to be a bureaucratic culture rather than bellicose. This will allow us to adopt centralized administration even though we aren't an empire. There's a giant empire that controls half of Africa. We go on a crusade to kick them out of Iberia. The giant empire collapses during the crusade, and the crusade is successful. We adopt centralized administration. This means we can revoke our vassals' lands whenever we want. We have access to the estate mechanic, and we can have any of our children inherit everything. Succession will never be a problem again. I reformed Danish to have a maritime mercantilism tradition. As literally all our counties are coastal, that will be very useful. This character ruled from the age of 2 to the age of 84 for a total of 82 years. My seventh character built a tax office in Sealand. We have hit the economic singularity. From now on we will always be building something as we have all the money we need. The only thing stopping us from having a max upgraded estate and personal domain is our tech level. I start upgrading my vassals' lands as well, and pretty soon they all have tax offices as well. I also break my rule for this run a little bit, and I expand Denmark into southern Sweden and Norway. Now we truly control the Danish Strait. 8th character. There's an apocalyptic plague localized entirely in Denmark, and the Latin Empire dissolves. 9th character. There's a successful crusade for Jerusalem, the Mongols have arrived, and I have infinite money. 10th character. The Mongols are gone, and we are in the late medieval era. The development at our capital is 100, and it's pretty high around the capital as well. We have unlocked all technologies. 11th character. Catholic Jerusalem has gone wild, and now there's a Catholic Arabian Empire. The Black Death happens and it lowers my average development by 20 points, but it also lowers all the other high development areas more. So now we are the most developed area on the map. Remember when there was that crusade in Iberia? Al-Andalus is ruled by one of our kin, and they are doing great. Unfortunately, the king of Al-Andalus is now my dynasty head, cause he has more troops than me. This is doubly annoying, as for some reason he absolutely refuses to take any more dynasty legacies for us. 12th character. Humble Denmark, that used to have no development, is now at 100 in most of its counties. Our estate is completely upgraded, and all of our personal domain counties have every single building upgraded to the maximum. The HRE has made France a tributary, and now they're trying to do the same to me. After hiring every single mercenary company, I drive them away. 13th and final character. This is it, I'm almost there. Our kin are now kicked off of the throne of Al-Andalus, making me the dynasty head. I can now unlock like 10 legacies at once because we have so much renown saved up. HRE tries to subjugate me, but my 100,000 strong army says no. And there we are at the very end of the game in 1453. The first time for me, and I'm glad I did it. But by the end there I was mostly just letting the game run at speed 5. Well, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. You can also watch another video like this by clicking the link appearing on your screen now. I hope to see you again.